Cam Newton was walking around. You forget how big that guy is.
He's so big.
Good
He's a big
God.
dude. Yeah, he's
I
a
said,
big dude.
man, he was one of the scariest players, like quarterbacks to face, because he really could drop a 70-yard bomb on you or run for 70. Like, I remember we played him back in 2012. Like, they had an opportunity at the very end of the game. We went ahead, and then they had an opportunity for like a 2-minute drive, and I was like, I mean, if you're the defense, you're kind of in a tough spot. Because, and look, and this kind of plays in the narrative of when he talked about game manager, game changer, all that stuff. Like, he did have the ability to be a game changer because of his size, his athleticism, his arm strength. So, he clarified, too, on like the Dan Patrick show, talking about like what his thoughts were on all that. And I thought he did a good job articulating like exactly, I think, how probably a lot of guys feel.
He's
like
a smart guy. Like,
No, he's not dumb at all.
And I think this whole tag of game manager has gotten so much run the past 2 weeks, and you're like, dude, it's not a criticism. Like, there's times where defenses make you manage the game as a quarterback. There's times when you can be a game changer, like a 2-minute drive, things break down, no one's like, okay, go change the game. And there's some guys who have the ability to do that, and there's some guys who don't. And I think that's all he was drawing the attention to, is like in those moments, like you've got to be able to literally change the game, change the outcome of that play of the game. And there's certain guys who can and certain guys who can't. Now, I think Brock Purdy has showcased at times the ability to kind of change and create and do some things. But it was nice to see him here, like not only just around, but also kind of clarifying and like cleaning up that whole conversation.
Well, I also think people get a hold of the game manager stuff and they look at it as shade. Like that's the angle everybody takes. Oh, that's got to be shade.
It is shade, though.
But is it really though?
Yes.
If somebody tells me, hey, you're a product of the system, I'm like, all right, sweet. Like I don't care. I like where I'm at. It's like somebody telling you,
Can you imagine people did that with Tom Brady for years? Said he was a game manager.
Oh yeah, and listen,
Cam said that.
Of he was a product of the system.
And look,
in New England.
But Cam said that. Like he said, he was like the elite of the elite in managing games.
And at least 2 of those Super Bowls, the first one in New England and the last one against the Rams. What did Tom Brady do in those games?
Hello over there.
He managed the game. Like he wasn't.
There's other life forms here.
He wasn't. He wasn't lighting it up. And I'll bet if you asked Tom Brady, would you rather have thrown for 200 yards and a touchdown and no interceptions and won that game against Philly, or the 500 you threw for and lost?
Exactly.
I mean, come on, man.
Peyton Manning's second Super Bowl.
Yes.
Like some of the best plays that down the stretch, because they were so dominant defensively, it was like his run checks. It was getting them in the right play, right situation in what they were doing, because their offense wasn't as dominant as it was when he first got to Denver. He was playing banged up. He was playing injured. Any quarterback would tell you, you just want to try to help your team get the win.
Yeah.
You get so much praise all the time, and rightfully so in some ways, sometimes a little too much. It's an instance where like we've lost track of the fact that Brock Purdy is playing unbelievable football. He was part of the MVP conversation at some point. He's a victim of the job that John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have done stacking up the roster. It's not very often you've got an all-pro running back, an all-pro wide receiver, an all-pro tight end, an all-pro left tackle on one side of the ball, let alone your entire team.
What's he supposed to do, ask for a trade? I got to prove myself here.
Yeah.
Can you send me to Carolina? I'd like to prove my worth here in the league.
It's like it's not his fault that he's in that situation. I think – you call it shade. I think there's probably a lot of other quarterbacks who are jealous, honestly.
Yes.
I mean, other quarterbacks will sit in a meeting room and be like, well, yeah, it'd be nice to throw it to her. I'd love to have a layup like that, like Kyle Shanahan draws up. I mean, those are real conversations.
It's being used to throw shade. Anytime somebody does it and they say it, you're saying it to throw shade. It's a diminishing term. It's a diminishing way of stating what a quarterback's capabilities are, or what their responsibility as a quarterback is.
Okay.
Whenever it's used because you're basically saying this quarterback isn't good enough to be their own quarterback. They're the system's quarterback. They're the coaching, the offensive coordinator, the head coaches. It's their responsibility and it's their duty for this quarterback to be good.
Yeah, but wouldn't you? Okay, because you guys have talked.
If you ask Cam Newton, is he a game manager? he would probably be offended.
No,
He would probably be offended
So
by that.
you didn't hear his clip probably on Dan
I
Patrick.
didn't hear his clip.
Because he talked about saying, like, there was times in my game where, like, that was what I was asked to do. Like, I game managed. And he said, he goes, there was times where I didn't do a good job of that because I wasn't checking down to C-Mac or taking the easy thing here or there.
But now with that being said, is he saying that he termed Brock Purdy as a guy that game manages at times because that's a part of his skill set, being able to game manage? Or was it? Because I did hear the original clip.
Yeah,
and the original clip makes it as though he is a game-managing quarterback, not a game changer.
You're right. But if you listen to what he said yesterday when he was talking about Dan Patrick and some of that stuff, it was crystal clear how he's kind of defining it.
Okay.
And is more kind of talking about managing a game more as a part of your game.
Okay.
And the way you kind of talked about game changers and how I was kind of explaining it, I think he listed off like 5 quarterbacks, right? Mahomes, Allen, Aaron Rodgers, Burrow, Lamar Jackson. And he said those are game changers, where when the game needs to be changed, when nothing's there, he's like those guys can change the game with a play here or there and what they do.
You know what's interesting about that to me is that if you thought that Brock Purdy was just a game-managing quarterback, they would not be in the Super Bowl right now with the way the playoffs went. The defense allowed points. The offense didn't put up enough points, and they were down.
Right.
They were down. What do you have to do in a game where you're down? You have to change the game.
That drive against Green Bay was huge.
You have to change the game. So are we still saying, okay, Brock Purdy's a game changer? Like he was in a situation where he had to change the game.
Let me ask you this. I think how it happens matters too.
Okay.
Like when you're on a team, again, going back to like the All-Pro, with all around you, and C-Mac, who's going to win Offensive Player of the Year, right? Which is viewed as like the runner-up to the MVP, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It then takes away from like what you're able to accomplish, which the best thing about Brock Purdy is he doesn't care about this conversation
at all. Wasn't even when they brought up the Tom Brady stuff. He was like, "Yeah, he's the GOAT."
Yeah,
of course they were going to talk to him.
Then you know what? Then Joe Montana is a game. He's a game manager.
Well,
you know what I mean? He's a game manager because he's a victim of the roster that's around him.
It's not being a victim of it. I think you're missing the point. It's like one of your tools in your tool belt.
Yep.
Like, do you have the ability to manage the game when the game is being dictated like that?
But
like
if you're a game changer, what are you? Are you not? Are you wearing the tool belt or like
no,
what? How does it work?
Everyone's wearing the tool belt.
Okay.
It's the tools that you have in that belt.
Okay.
And what he's saying is there's only 5 or so that can, when they need to and need to make a play and change the game, they can. The rest, it's more about how they go about managing the game, managing what they have around them. Okay. And so, for example, like even if you kind of talk about, like, you look at Patrick Mahomes, teams are taking away the big shots. They don't play him. They don't play them in a lot of man coverage.
Yep.
And reason being is because they don't want to allow him to be able to have the quick strike. So he's got to manage what's being presented to him. But don't get it twisted. When they bring an all-out blitz like they did, he needs a big play to Marquez Valdes-Scantling. They throw it up. Scantling makes the play. There you have it. Back to the original question, though. Like, when you see that the big Brandon Ayuk catch, which helped flip the game in the NFC Championship game, how that ball is thrown and caught changes the narrative a bit too, right?
Yeah,
like,
sure.
if that's just a perfectly thrown pass to Ayuk, he catches it, or he gets the end zone.
But it's a pass interference anyway, right? Wasn't that a pass
I
interference?
think they had a flag on it either
it's
way.
It's a pass interference, but it was a poorly thrown ball.
It should have been picked.
It should have been picked off.
And I'm saying, so plays like that too can help change the narrative as far as how they look. And that's the thing is, you could call it lucky, call it whatever you want.
I mean, Cam has had some pretty horrible-looking throws in his career. I mean,
yeah, every quarterback has.